You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, people? You know what I'm saying? It's Tuesday. The day Bill takes 2 shots. That was a special Lori Trout commemorative entrance. I was talking to Lori on the phone the other day. She called me, of course, because I can't remember to make contact with other human beings except via this medium. So it's getting a little pathological here in the Poetry Break Central. Mark Kenny is here. Janine Boggs is here. Ah, yes. Bill Wallum is here. That's a quorum. That's a quorum. No, I don't think I'm going to say that, Janine. Anyway, Gally, there's Lori. I hope you saw the entry, Lori. I hope you saw the Tuesday, the day Bill takes 2 shots, because I did do that, as we had discussed. Welcome to what is I can only say a muddle-headed Tuesday for me. And I took a nap this afternoon, and you know how naps can be a very healing, and they can be kind of a re-enliven. It's like a reset button for the day, which is always nice. But they can also be something that makes you wake up and go, where am I? What day is this? Yeah. Mark is back from Oregon and ready to listen in. Oh, Mark was in Oregon. I see. Was there poetry down there, Mark? Do they have poetry in Oregon? I've heard they do. Thanks, Ma. So here we are. We're diving right in. Let me tell you, first of all, see that page in there right there? That's how much I have typed this week. It's been a quiet week in the land of the pen and the typewriter for me, so I'm not sure I'm going to read anything of mine tonight. Although I may stumble across something somewhere. I did hear from John Gorski, and John, John's out there. John, if you're out there, I can't read in a Scottish accent, you know? I can't even speak in a Scottish accent. It's not one of the accents that I'm really good at. And I know people who can, but nobody here in the room. So I think we're going to need to talk or converse more via Messenger before I'm going to be willing to read what you had sent, although I want to. And I was already planning on reading some John Gorski tonight. I love this cover picture because it says "You want coffee" in there. There's no question mark at the end of it. It's just kind of like the backwards hypnotic "You want coffee." It's a great photo. Is there a photo credit for that? Should be. John's a detail-oriented guy. I'm sure there's the cover design by Kun Woon. Oh, well. Gee. Very official. I've never had a... My daughter usually designs my covers for me. Anyway, let's read a poem. I've been reading some Kim Addonizio and loving it, and watching videos of her on YouTube and trying to get a sense of her playfulness, which you can hear in the poetry, but you're not sure how much of it is how playful she really is until you see her read herself, which I think is great. So I wanted to read this one called Animals and this is from her collection called Now We're Getting Somewhere. Poems by Kim Addonizio. This is called Animals, and I love this. It's got an epigraph from a Walt Whitman poem that has been shared here in the break. I think I could turn and live with animals. That's the epigraph. Oh, Walt, you were wrong. They aren't placid or self-contained. I just watched a spoonbill make carpaccio out of a frog and crocodiles dining on wildebeests trying to cross the Maro River. It's wrong to say "oh" in poetry these days, which makes me want to have a loud orgasm right here in an unashamed animal way. You must have been looking at some cows on a farm, but who wants to live like that, standing around in a shed with sore tits, shitting claustrophobically, or standing around shitting and being tortured by flies and eating grass? I know you like grass, but it's no fun to be a pricey pre-hamburger ruminating with no TV. If you'd had a cable subscription, maybe you would have felt differently, watching Nat Geo Wild on those exhausted herds on the Serengeti. Walt, I still love you, even if in this instance you may have been a victim of the pastoral tradition. Let me tell you about animals. The green anaconda swallowed the young capybara whole. Oh, Walt! Capybaras are the largest rodents on Earth. I don't think I'd survive as an animal for long, even a large one. Look at the elephants. Imagine being murdered and becoming a doodad or furniture inlay. Walt, I actually like sweating and whining about my condition, hot flashing and bitching in my cream satin sheets, lying awake drunk and weeping in the dark. I'd definitely like to own more things. An electric knife sharpener, for instance, would come in handy for carving up the less fortunate on special holidays. I want to be lucky as long as I can. Walt, I don't think death is lucky or leads life forward, like you said. I don't think I'm going to grow from the grass you love. I'm just going to have one last blackout in a dirty pink lace dress and be eaten by tiny, ugly, legless larvae. Kim Addonizio. Animals. What was that other one I was going to do? There was one more in here. Oh boy, Bill, come on, don't be like this. I tried to be more organized. No. Oh, yes. Yes. Night in the Castle, this is called. I'm just cracking this book, so I haven't really... I think there's another Kim Addonizio coming later tonight, though. Night in the Castle. I'm not sure what to do about the scorpion twitching on the wall. Maybe I should slam it with this book of terrible poetry, or just read aloud to it until it dies of a histrionic metaphor, bleeding out on the ancient stones in a 5-octave aria. Did I read this one before? If I get a little drunker, I might try to murder it with my sandal. I gave up on mercy a while ago. That's what happens when you live in a castle on an artist's grant. You look at the late afternoon Umbrian light smearing itself over the tomato vines and feel entitled, like an underage duchess whose husband has finally died of gout, leaving her free for more secret liaisons with the court musician. She might even have poisoned the Duke, the lecherous shit. It's hard to remember what life was like before this, and I don't want to. I want to stay here and poison the king next. I want to be a feared and beloved queen, ordering up fresh linens and beheadings, locking up bad poets in their artisanal hair shirts, torturing academics with pornographic marionette performances. Meanwhile, the scorpion is still there, twitching slightly, reciting something about violence and the prison of ego, and I can hear the clashing armies on the wide lawn outside, sinking down into history, then standing up again. I think I did read that one before, but it bears rereading, don't you think? I think it's time for a Lori Trout commemorative shot. This is the new pewter shot glass that she sent this last week. One of these times I'll do the shots back to back, but I don't think I can take it tonight. I'm already muddle-headed enough. Okay. It feels weird not doing a mailbag or a old manhood, but it's going to be like that sometimes, you know. It's been a light week in the mailbag, so again, let me point to this little note down here. This is our email address here at the Poetry Break, and you are welcome to send in poems. Poems old, poems new, something that you wrote, something that a friend of yours wrote, something that you remember hearing when you were a child or an adult, or that time when you were temporarily imprisoned in an asylum of some sort. like I have been so many times. John Gorski is in the room with us. Night Like Black Coffee is his most recent book, I believe. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. I wanted to read a couple of these just because I really like them. John is the real thing. The first one I'm going to read is called Skirmishes. Skirmishes by John Gorski. Morning is waking from a battle that clamored in my sleep with pulsing red sirens. It's a war of nerves continuing as I enter the rainy March air. Surrounding mountains hum a cloudy fugue across these streets framed by the Salish Sea. I'll never make it back to my chimerical childhood on the opposite coast of this country. It's enough to feed you, these morsels on the tongue, to keep you walking in the parade of daily cordiality. The men with the leaf blowers around 8 a.m. with their guttural bombast, but they can never clear all the dead leaves from last November. My mother feeds envelopes into the sorting machine. She works night shift at the post office. We all work the night shift. What choice do we have but to lean in, to spark no... Oops. I've run across a word I don't know how to pronounce. No repinephrine. I should have looked that up. With medicine, if necessary, to illuminate the shadowy hallways of the brain. One late night last month, someone stole the license plate off the front of my car. Then last week, an opioid addict broke into our building's mailroom, looking for Social Security checks, and the lock had to be changed. It's one damn thing after another. Above me, the sun leaches azure from the sky and hurries down alleyways of noir, celluloid heavens, disappearing into a murder mystery. Several dawns later, the irises of spectators along the cliffs of this inland sea open to a revelation of milky light. What is that word? No repinephrine. Nope. Sorry, John. I feel ashamed at having not... What was I... When I read this before, what was I thinking that word was? Maybe there's no hard words in this one. This is called Work Night Blues. Bird, lying still on the pavement, your eyes locked in a dead universe, come back to life, to the withered flesh we are all forced to wear. We'll walk through blackberry thickets pulsing at the edge of trauma, where thorns tear at our dreams. We'll wake beneath the city's overcast afternoon to unhappy people milling around the transit stop, poisoned pilgrims who have lost their way. We'll listen to the barren canyons of their breathing while the world goes by. The gray skies deepen in charcoal past 4 p.m. as I ride the E-line by trees losing tangerine and wine-red leaves. I am careful to get off at the Federal Building, where there in the crowded lobby I forget the refrigerator at home, chilling memories of my vanished youth. Wearing the clothes of a janitor, I take the elevator to various dungeons in the sky. Down sweating hallways, I find the doors to offices I am to clean in this building with the minimum temperature set at 75 degrees by a Republican Congress. Using a security badge to buzz my way in the door, I turn in circles as I empty trash cans, dust computer stations, and catch vacuum cleaner cords under cubicles. All the while, I'm heating up in these clerical spaces where janitors are baked like gingerbread men with burned raisins for eyes. Later, I step into the nighttime world of my neighborhood in the last block before home and hear an invisible dog at my back howling a pathology. I love both of those poems. Okay. I don't care, people. I'm looking it up. N-O-R-E-P-I-N-E. P-H-R-I-N-E. Huh. Blood pressure support. Okay. Apparently it is a pharmaceutical product. but I still don't know how to pronounce it. Norepinephrine. Norepinephrine. Can you give us a pronouncer, John, real quick? He seems to be responding. You're right. It is.
Norepinephrine.
Norepinephrine. Norepinephrine? Oh, yeah. To spark norepinephrine. Okay, I'm going to read it again. Isn't it fun how we can get help? Norepinephrine. Oh, I thought it was spelled differently. Skirmishes. Morning is waking from the battle that clamored in my sleep with pulsing red sirens. It's a war of nerves continuing as I enter the rainy March air. Surrounding mountains hum a cloudy fugue across these streets framed by the Salish Sea. I'll never make it back to my chimerical childhood on the opposite coast of this country. It's enough to feed you, these morsels on the tongue to keep you walking the parade of daily cordiality. The men with the leaf blowers arrive at 8 a.m. with their guttural bombast, but they can never clear all the dead leaves from last November. My mother feeds envelopes into the sorting machine. She works night shift at the post office. We all work the night shift. What choice do we have but to lean in, to spark norepinephrine with medicine if necessary to illuminate the shadowed hallways of the brain? One late night last month, someone stole the license plate off the front of my car. Then last week, an opioid addict broke into our building's mailroom looking for Social Security checks, and the lock had to be changed. It's one damn thing after another. Above me, the sun leaches azure from the sky and hurries down alleyways of noir celluloid heavens, disappearing into a murder mystery. Several dawns later, the irises of spectators along the cliffs of this inland sea open to a revelation of milky light. Thank you, John. Thank you, John. I'm sorry I didn't do better. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I know what you're going to do. It's Tuesday. So, remember this guy? This little anthology was given to me by my friends Kelly Murphy and Mary Lenz for my birthday a couple of years ago. I think it was birthday. It must have been birthday. And I wanted to read some of the mindfulness ones. We've got impermanence. Enough of that. Old manhood, I think, really covers impermanence in a less than perfectly eloquent, but certainly generous way. A little old manhood goes a long way. As I heard someone say, it might have been me. So I wanted to read some of the mindfulness ones, because I read the entire joy section to you, which, as I said, was kind of tragically short. And so I thought I'd read some of the mindfulness ones, and I may have read these before too. I've got my little star marks by them and stuff like that, which usually means that I have been desperate for something to read and have read these before, but I don't remember doing it, so maybe I didn't. We're going to start with a Wallace Stevens. Now, Wallace Stevens is one of those poets who's very well known and supposedly was a pioneer of a sort, but he's never really broken through my consciousness in any kind of significant way. Not to say I don't have the collected Wallace Stevens sitting over there in the S's. I do. Wallace and my relationship is still something that will occur in the future, I'm sure. But I'll read this one. This is called The Snowman. One must have a mind of winter to regard the frost and boughs of the pine trees crusted with snow, and have been cold a long time to behold the junipers shagged with ice, the spruces rough in the distant glitter of the January sun, and not to think of any misery in the sound of the wind, in the sound of a few leaves, which is the sound of the land, full of the same wind that is blowing in the same bare place for the listener who listens in the snow, and, nothing himself, beholds nothing that is not there, and the nothing that is. Okay, Wally, you got me there, Wally. Did people call him Wally, you think? He doesn't look like a Wally. He looks very stern and, in his photographs. Are poets supposed to look stern? I don't know, maybe in that era it was better if they looked stern. Maybe stern was seen as more dignified, and they thought that poetry was a dignified art, or that it needed some dignity. I think poetry's had too much dignity. That's why I like the Kim Addonizio and stuff like that, because it kind of takes a lot of that kind of staid, kind of, what would we say, academic kind of dignity out of it. This poem just sings. So good on you, Wally. I'll call him Wally. The Snowman. One must have a mind of winter to regard the frost and the boughs of the pine trees crusted with snow, and have been cold a long time to behold the junipers shagged with ice, the spruces rough in the distant glitter of the January sun, and not to think of any misery in the sound of the wind, in the sound of a few leaves, which is the sound of the land, full of the same wind that is blowing in the same bare place for the listener, who listens in the snow, and, nothing himself, beholds nothing that is not there, and the nothing that is. Yeah. Well, let's move on, shall we? Kenneth Rexroth is next. A poem called Empty Mirror. As long as we are lost in the world of purpose, we are not free. I sit in my 10-foot square hut. The birds sing, the bees hum, the leaves sway, the water murmurs over the rocks. The canyon shuts me in. If I moved, Basho's frog would splash in the pool. All summer long the gold laurel leaves fell through space. Today I was aware of a maple leaf floating in the pool. In the night I stare into the fire. Once I saw fire cities, towns, palaces, wars, heroic adventures in the campfires of youth. Now I see only fire. My breath moves quietly, the stars move overhead. In the clear darkness, only a small red glow is left in the ashes. On the table lies a cast, snakeskin, and an uncut stone. Kenny. I think people called him Kenny. Sorry. Empty Mirror. I'm going to read that again. As long as we are lost in the world of purpose, we are not free. I sit in my 10-foot square hut. The birds sing, the bees hum, the leaves sway. The water murmurs over the rocks. The canyon shuts me in. If I moved, Basho's frog would splash in the pool. All summer long the gold laurel leaves fell through space. Today I was aware of a maple leaf floating on the pool. In the night I stare into the fire. Once I saw fire cities, towns, palaces, wars, heroic adventures in the campfires of youth. Now I see only fire. My breath moves quietly. The stars move overhead. In the clear darkness, only a small red glow is left in the ashes. On the table lies a cast snakeskin and an uncut stone. Kenny! I can hear the leaves rustling that he was talking about. Oh, it's the hand, ladies and gentlemen. The hand is multiple pieces of information coming in, courtesy of the hand. I mean, you know who that person was who was speaking earlier? I thought, well, the hand doesn't speak, so the hand can't answer. Maybe another note will explain. I heard another voice earlier telling me how to pronounce something. Yes, Wallace Stevens was a stern insurance executive. Yes, I knew this part. Yeah, he sold insurance. But I think Ted Kooser was also some kind of an executive, maybe in the insurance industry, and he didn't look stern. Ted Kooser doesn't look stern. I don't know. Maybe Wallace Stevens looks stern because he's no longer living. Maybe that kind of makes you more stern to looking to other people when you're no longer living? I guess we'll find out. Anyway, who do we got here? We got Janine Box. We got Bill Woolman. We got Cindy Clark. Hi, Cindy. Jeff Steve is in the house. Hey, Jeff. How you doing? Then we got Finn Livingston. Yay. Katrina Knight. Lori Trout. Rick Lewis. And I'm sure there's other people hanging out back by the dumpster, smoking cigarettes with the cool people, you know. Because I don't think the cigarette smokers are cool anymore. Darn it. Oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You know? Well, I'm saying. I wanted to read one that I heard from my friend Alan Copsey, who I've not heard from in quite a while. The last time I saw Alan, I was down in Olympia at a Cat Eggleston concert at Traditions Fair Trade down there. And I ran into Alan and Deborah. We spoke for a few minutes. Alan and I used to play music together when I was in high school. And Alan was the most amazing guitarist I'd ever met and known in person. So I learned a lot from watching Alan. He doesn't acknowledge any of that, of course, because he's a humble guy, but it's true. I learned a lot from watching Alan Copsey. I did. If you're out there, Alan, I salute you, sir. And thank you for the contact. It was great to hear from you. He still has he mentioned in his note that he still has a copy of Gary Snyder's Turtle Island that I gave him 46 years ago. I gave somebody a book of Gary Snyder 46 years ago. No, it couldn't have been. Was it 46, did he say? Something like that. Numbers like that, once you get past a certain number, it doesn't matter. It was just a really long time ago, and it's strange to have been alive a really long time ago. Because it used to be I hadn't been alive a really long time ago. You remember? When you hadn't been alive a really long time ago? And now I have been alive since then. Anyway, he actually requested that I read this poem, which is his favorite poem from that book, For the Children, it's called, which is a great poem. Classic Gary Snyder. So since I've recently gotten the collected, I thought, well, I can just whip this out, lay it on you. That's what you do with poetry sometimes. If you don't want to be too stern, you need to just kind of whip it out and lay it on. For the Children. The rising hills, the slopes of statistics lie before us, the steep climb of everything going up as we all go down. In the next century, or the one beyond that, they say, are valleys, pastures. We can meet there in peace if we make it. To climb those coming crests, one word to you and your children. Stay together. Learn the flowers. Go light. Words to live by there, Gary. No wonder he won the Pulitzer Prize for that book. And he did not look stern at all. In fact, he looked kind of goofy. I think the photo on the back of Turtle Island, he looks kind of goofy. And I almost thought, when I first saw it, when I first saw it, I almost thought to myself, hey, that's not Gary Snyder. It doesn't look like Gary Snyder. It looks kind of doofy. But he's got a kid on his back, which is cool. He's got the little Turtle Island symbol right there on his vest. He's something, that guy. For the Children. The rising hills, the slopes of statistics lie before us. The steep climb of everything going up as we all go down. In the next century or the one beyond that, they say, are valleys, pastures. We can meet there in peace if we make it. To climb those coming crests, these coming crests, one word to you and your children. Stay together. Learn the flowers. Go light. There you go. Our weekly dose of Master Snyder. Imagine having written something like that people read, 40 years later and still think is groovy. You know what I mean? couple more here. This is William Stafford. He makes an appearance in just like you'd expect, one of our old friends. This is called Listening. My father could hear a little animal step or a moth in the dark against the screen, and every far sound called the listening out into places where the rest of us had never been. More spoke to him I'm going to start over. Listening. My father could hear a little animal step or a moth in the dark against the screen, and every far sound called the listening out into places where the rest of us had never been. More spoke to him from the soft, wild night than came to our porch for us on the wind. We would watch him look up and his face go keen till the walls of the world flared, widened. My father heard so much that we still stand, inviting the quiet by turning the face, waiting for a time when something in the night will touch us too from that other place. Here's one by Dick Allen called Listening Deeply. Listening deeply, sometimes in another you can hear the sound of a hermit sighing as he climbs a mountain trail to reach a waterfall, or a Buddhist nun reciting prayers while moonlight falls through the window onto an old clay floor, and once in a while a child rolling a hoop through the alleyways of Tokyo laughing, or a farmer pausing in a rice field to watch geese fly, the thoughts on his lips he doesn't think to say. Two more. What time is that? It's only 7:32. Maybe we'll get one of those nice short ones tonight. D.H. Lawrence. Yes, D.H. Lawrence is next. The White Horse. The youth walks up to the white horse to put its halter on, and the horse looks at him in silence. They are so silent, they are in another world. The White Horse. The youth walks up to the white horse to put its halter on, and the horse looks at him in silence. They are so silent, they are in another world. And finally, well, maybe not finally. These just keep going, don't they? This is A.R. Ammons, who appears quite frequently in here. And it's just, we're going to have to do a deep dive into old A.R. here pretty soon. I've got plenty of them up there in the A's. There he is. See him? He's waving. Yeah. A.R. Ammons. Clarifications, this is called. The crows, mingled powder white, arrive floundering through the heavy snowfall. They land ruffling stark black on the spruce boughs and chisel the neighborhood sharp with their cries. I bet I've read that one before. Clarifications, it's called. The crows, mingled powder white, arrive floundering through the heavy snowfall. They land ruffling stark black on the spruce boughs and chisel the neighborhood sharp with their cries. Yes. Okay. Denise Levertov. Yes. This is called Aware. When I found the door, I found the vine leaves speaking among themselves in abundant whispers. My presence made them hush their green breath, embarrassed the way humans stand up, buttoning their jackets, acting as if they were leaving anyway, as if the conversation had ended just before you arrived. I liked the glimpse I had, though, of their obscure gestures. I like the sound of such private voices. Next time, I'll move like cautious sunlight, open the door by fractions, eavesdrop peacefully. Once again, I'm not impressed with the way I'm reading tonight. I apologize. Aware, this is called. When I found the door, I found the vine leaves speaking among themselves in abundant whispers. My presence made them hush their green breath, embarrassed the way humans stand up, buttoning their jackets, acting as if they were leaving anyway, as if the conversation had ended just before you arrived. I liked the glimpse I had, though, of their obscure gestures. I liked the sound of such private voices. Next time, I'll move like cautious sunlight, open the door by fractions, eavesdrop peacefully. Yes. Okay, Anna Swir. Our Two Silences, it's called. This is translated from the Polish by Czesław Milos and Leonard Nathan. Our Two Silences. Silence flows into me and out of me, washing my past away. I am pure already, waiting for you. Bring me your silence. They will doze off, nestled in each other's arms, our two silences. Our Two Silences by Anna Swir. Silence flows into me and out of me, washing my past away. I am pure already, waiting for you. Bring me your silence. They will doze off, nestled in each other's arms, our two silences. Oh, this is such good stuff. Sometimes, yeah. Okay, I'm going to read one more A.R. Ammons because it's looking up at me from the page, and I love this guy. This is called Reflective. I found a weed that had a mirror in it, and that mirror looked in at a mirror in me that had a weed in it. You see, it's very simple. It's like anybody could have written that. And you're right. Probably anybody could have written that, but he actually did. You know? It's like William Stafford said, artists decide. That's what artists do. They decide. They decide what color that vase is. They decide the shape of David's buttocks. They decide which words to put down on the paper. Artists decide. Reflective. I found a weed that had a mirror in it, and that mirror looked in at a mirror in me that had a weed in it. Yep. Okay. I've got bookmarks scattered all over the place. That means I've lost my place in at least 3 books. Just during the poetry break, just during the last 38 minutes. So, yeah, I guess I'm not at my best. I'm not at my best because I haven't been writing very much, although I will read you this right from the pages of my notebook. I looked at it earlier, I thought I could read this because at least it's an attempt at something. Sometimes I get into these little cul-de-sacs of thinking, and it affects the way I write, and I can't get off that. I can't get out of there for a while. And I'm kind of bumping up against, crashing into all the cars that are pulled up in the driveways in the cul-de-sac. Until every car is dented, until several people have called the authorities, then finally I can find my way out of there again. It's like I have to find it by bumping into the walls. And so I get into this kind of mode in my writing sometimes, and I almost always find my way out, but what happens in there is just not pretty, and it's crunchy, and it doesn't always sing. I like to sing. That's why Woody is still part of the picture. I like singing. That greater variety of experience that comes from being in the world of other people and their uniqueness, shoved up against our own. Bookstores and coffee shops, without agenda, besides seeing, hearing, absorbing the faces and language patterns falling out of the daylight or darkness of strangers' experiences. These are the raw materials. Capitalism wants us to stay home and interact with each other on screens, respond to advertisements, thrill to one-click ordering, spending what we make while looking at one screen by buying off of another. Our groceries delivered, our news and movies brightly lit with red, white, and blue banners and crawls. Everything is breaking news if this is our only source. We hear the mentally ill screaming at the bus stop we used to use and wonder whether someone should call the cops. But he hasn't come to our door, hasn't threatened our screens, won't unless we let things go on like this. Maybe he's just lonely and calling a friend the old-fashioned way. After all, he's the one out in the world, the bus stop, the park, the corner, the woods, the stoop, and we are the sheltered ones, being shocked and awed by the latest broken news coming across the poison field of watching we've come to think of as doing. Not pretty. There's not a lot of, you want a little of, so maybe I should have read that before I read these nice mindfulness poems, right? Should have done that. Well, I'm sure we can find some quick remedy here. Ron Padgett. Now you see it. What you don't see helps you see what you do see. The keyhole sharpens the thrill in your brain, even if there is no one in the room. Shadows wafting across the white sheets as a song drifts in the window, her voice so pure you can see the face it rises from. For what you see helps you see what you don't see. Yeah. Kind of going back to that other Ammons poem from earlier. Yeah, I like that. Now you see it. What you don't see helps you see what you do see. The keyhole sharpens the thrill in your brain, even if there's no one in the room. Shadows wafting across the white sheets as a song drifts in the window. Her voice so pure, you can see the face it rises from. For what you see helps you see what you don't see. There you go. Got the nose up on it there right at the end. Thank you for bearing with me on that, I just feel scatterbrained. Thank you, John Gorski, for your poetry and for trusting me with the Scottish accent piece, although I'm not even going to try it. I don't know how to do it. I don't know. Thank you, Janine Boggs, for being here and for saying your wonderful phrases. Bill Woolham, a teacher, a friend. Phil Livingston, thank you, sir. Mark Kenny, Mr. Reliable. Yes, Jeff Steve. Rick Lewis. Hey, Rick. Laurie Trout. As always, Laurie Trout, Katrina Knight. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you trusting me with these words. And I'll try to keep them coming. I'm just in a thing with my own writing. I get into these things, like I said. It's like a cul-de-sac. It's not that I'm not writing, but I'm writing a lot of stuff like that that's kind of crunchy and not very, I don't know. I like stuff that brings us all, that can raise us all up a little bit. That's what I really want to be doing. So I'll take another swing at it next week. What do you say? Until then, have a poetic week, everybody. Bye-bye.